Good afternoon and welcome to our Grand Rounds presentation for Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you as well as our presenter today. A few ground rules: please be sure that you're on mute until during the presentation. There will be ample time for questions and answers. We're so happy that all of you were able to join us today. I'm Dr. Joanne Chopak-Voss. I am hosting the Grand Rounds presentation today for Dr. Telfair, who had to be out of town. Let's see, I think that's all for the ground rules. So let's go ahead and get started. It is my pleasure to welcome our presenter today, Miss Jill Johns. I've known Jill, or Jill and I have known one another for almost 20 years. We have children the same age who met when they were about 3 and graduated high school together. So it was very exciting for me when I was able to work with her as a internship supervisor for some of our bachelor's science and public health undergraduate students, and then also when she decided to come back to pursue her DRPH. I would accurately agree with the description. Jill is an effervescent bundle of creative energy and just a bubbly person overall. She is a certified professional coach and has delivered many keynote addresses sharing her personal journey of specific health issues, as well as her career journey that has brought her to be with us today. She is currently all but dissertation for her DRPH, and we're so proud of her. And her focus is on total worker health, designing and implementing evidence-based interventions to develop a healthy workforce. She currently serves as the project manager for the Institute for Health and Logistics and Analytics at Georgia Southern, where she is overseeing 2 federal OSHA grants to ensure that Georgia's agribusinesses are better prepared for future zoonotic or infectious disease outbreaks. When she's not focusing on work or school, Jill and her family live on a 9-acre nature-based retreat center in rural Southeast Georgia, which they call Space to Thrive. I've had the fortunate experience to be there, and it is beautiful. So welcome, Jill. Great to see you.
Thank you, Dr. Chopak-Voss. Thank you for that introduction. And yeah, it seems fun, and you're going to be part of the arc of the story today. So I'm glad that you got to kick this off because you have definitely been part of the journey. So thank you for having me. And I am grateful to Dr. Telfair for inviting me to do this today, a little humbled by the experience. So happy to be here and happy that all of y'all are here to witness this journey today. So give me a minute. I am going to share my screen and put this into slideshow view. And if somebody could give me, I think Dr. Chopak-Voss, you're the only one with your screen on. Can you give me a thumbs up that you can see that? Okay, excellent. All right, so today I am going to talk about Facing Our Fear Beasts. It's a story of love, therapy, and lucky breaks, but I also my short title is Acknowledging the Voices Within and Doing It Anyway. Start with a little story. In the howling and desolate desert, a lone child stands courageously facing a looming beast of fear, of teeth and claws and malice. The nightmare monster stands over the child, its gaping maw threatening to swallow the child into oblivion. But the child is neither afraid nor vengeful. The child knows that the beast and all the wrath it carries is only a projection of a vulnerable being, wounded and scared and lashing out in pain. The child stands in the path of fear, seeing through the violence and loving the wounded sibling trapped within. The child knows that they are never truly alone, knows that they're surrounded by family and community and ancestors, both seen and unseen. The child knows that as long as they have love, they can face down any nightmare. Good afternoon, I'm Jill Johns, and this past summer, I had the opportunity to check off a bucket list item and attend Burning Man, where I interacted with this incredible art piece called Facing the Fearbeast by Tigre Mashal Lively and Make Love Visible. It was inspirational, awe-inspiring, and humbling. Facing the Fearbeast is an interactive, mixed media interpretation of the human struggle. A child faces a giant beast alone. Inside the mouth of the beast, we see an identical version of the first child made to represent our wounded inner child. When no one is near that art installation, an audio recording plays the inner child's thoughts, most of which are negative. But as people approach the child, even placing hands on the shoulder of the child or taking the child's hand, that inner dialogue changes and becomes positive, supporting, and uplifting, giving the child strength to face the fear beast. So that piece really stayed with me even after I left Burning Man and even after I left that dusty desert. So when asked to present at Grand Rounds, I knew that I wanted to present more than just my public health resume and more than just the updates on our institute, no matter how exciting and remarkable those updates may be. And because the truth is that no matter where I am today, I really have to acknowledge those fear beasts that I have overcome and that I'm continuing to overcome on a daily basis. And so, yeah, today I want to present to you in this presentation my whole person. As Dr. Chopak-Foss mentioned, I am currently a DRPH student who is all but dissertation. I'm also a project manager at the Institute for Health Logistics and Analytics. I'm also a wife and a mother who's raised 4 adult children. I'm a business owner, a philanthropist. I consider myself a seeker. I'm also a breast cancer survivor, a CPTSD survivor. I'm a public health practitioner, a researcher, a scholar, but more importantly for today, I really see myself as a facilitator or a thought provoker, or maybe even a conversation starter who really fully and honestly recognizes that it takes courage to face the fear beast. It takes vulnerability to face the fear beast. And really, all of us who are on this call, or most of us that are on this call, are public health professionals. So I know that you all have knowledge and skills and an unparalleled work ethic. And I've learned that public health professionals have an unwavering dedication. And I also know from my experience that what it takes above and beyond those tangible skills to be successful, to face the fear beast, is that you have to have love. And many of us can't receive that love without a lot of therapy. And when it's all said and done, no matter how hard we try, we still need to receive the magic of a few lucky breaks of simply being at the right place and at the right time. So today, my hope is that this will feel a little less like a presentation and a little more like an interactive workshop. In order for it to feel interactive, it may be a little too late for this, but I would love for you to grab a notebook or a piece of paper, because not only am I going to be sharing some of my experiences and perspectives with you, but I'd love for there to be some time for self-reflection. There's going to be some moments of pause throughout this where you'll be able to write down some of your own thoughts. And then those moments at the end where we have time for Q&A, I'm hoping that that will be a moment where we can do some sharing and some self-reflection. But today together, we're going to look at how we can face our fear beasts through loving relationships, through therapeutic support systems, and through our resilience that sometimes does feel like lucky breaks. And then when we sign off today, I'm hoping that you'll feel renewed energy toward your public health career and mission by maybe learning a little bit more about mine. So without further ado, I'd like to share with you my professional timeline. I know a lot of you on this call already, so I feel like I'm speaking to people that I know, but I also don't recognize a few of the names. So I'm just going to enlighten you kind of at a high level with my professional timeline. So when I graduated from Notre Dame in 1997, I didn't really have clarity about what I wanted to do professionally. But what I did know was that I did not want to have a career in corporate America. So much to my parents' dismay, and hi to my mom who's on the call here today. So hi, Barb. I moved to France and flew hot air balloons. Well, life is funny. And 4 years after that, I moved back to the US and began working in corporate jobs, which I did for the next 13 years. And during my time in corporate, I worked in a variety of different industries, ranging from manufacturing to aerospace to finance. And within those different industries, I worked in a variety of roles, ranging from Lean Six Sigma to human resources to training and development. And while I was in corporate, I got what I consider a mini MBA, which ended up as a master's in industrial management and safety from Georgia Southern. I also got a divorce, I got married, and I got laid off. It was that layoff that catapulted me into entrepreneurship, which simultaneously was one of the most rewarding and challenging chapters for me, both personally and professionally. And it was during that time where I was also diagnosed with breast cancer in 2015. And it was my breast cancer diagnosis in 2015 that opened me up to the field of public health. And I believe that cancer diagnosis is what's solely responsible for my professional pivot in 2017, when a local breast surgeon and I launched the breast health program at East Georgia Regional Medical Center in Statesboro, Georgia. And so it was through that program that I met many of the professors at the Jiann-Ping College of Public Health at Georgia Southern, and I began working with students as their internship site host that Dr. Chobak-Foss mentioned. And it was really an off-the-cuff comment that was made during a staff meeting at the hospital that, to lightly quote, that they said, "Well, you're not a doctor, Jill, so what do you know?" That sparked the fire in my belly to pursue my DRPH. So in 2019, at the age of 44, I became a full-time student in the College of Public Health at the Jiann-Ping College of Public Health at Georgia Southern in the Community Health, Behavior, and Education Department. And in January of 2022, I passed my comprehensive exams, which put me in the ABD category. And that is when I began working in my dream job as the project manager for the Institute for Health Logistics and Analytics under the direction of Dr. Jessica Schwind, who is on this call as well, who was my former epidemiology professor, who had the innovative idea to bring health and wellness to rural communities through evidence-based practices and technology integration, leveraging a One Health approach. So not only is that very exciting, but she also on day one on the job prioritized joy. And anybody who knows me outside of work knows that that is like my tagline. So having joy as one of our goals with our little startup team of 3 was like an alignment of the stars. And so to date, it's really exciting to note that our little institute has now secured over $26 million in contracts with 2 federal grants. We've grown from 3 to 5 full-time employees. We also have 3 current part-time employees with more on the way, 2 graduate assistants, and 1 intern currently. So yes, mom and dad, you no longer need to worry about me professionally anymore. I'm gonna be okay. There. But that being said, when I did begin my public health journey, my inner child, so me as the child standing there looking at my fear beast, my inner child was screaming with negative thoughts. My very first negative thought was, what if I don't get accepted into the DRPH program? And then I was thinking things like, what if I'm too old to go back to school? As Dr. Chopak-Foss mentioned, and as you heard in my bio, my children were in high school and college. Why was I thinking about going back to school to get my DRPH? I was very old, or seeming. And what if I can't do it? I got my undergraduate in 1997. The internet didn't even exist when I graduated from college, and my master's didn't really require me to do a whole lot of research. So I wasn't even sure that I could write a paper and do research, and public health is so deeply rooted in research. I wasn't sure that I could even do that anymore. So my fear beast was screaming at me. And then once I did get accepted into the program, as some of the others who are on this call, Rashonda and Lola can attest to, I started getting a lot of fear beast thoughts about, what if I don't get a job? Or what if I get a job that I don't like? Honestly, here I was, a woman in her mid-40s. I was living in rural Georgia with a career that up to this point seemed fairly nonsensical. I was getting my doctorate in public health. To some, I seemed very overqualified. To others, I was very underqualified. I also, at this juncture in my life, wanted a lot of autonomy and flexibility, but I also needed a certain level of income. So my worries about what if I can't get paid enough. In public health, a lot of the good paying jobs are in Atlanta or in DC. And with my family situation, I knew I wasn't going to move. And so I was really worried about that. But then, as you heard, I got this great job. But then with this great job, it was, okay, you're getting hired, but we only have funding for 9 months because this is all soft funded. And so then the fear beast crept in of, well, now that I have this great job and they're prioritizing joy, I don't want to lose this great job. So then the pressure came on of needing to find grants to stick with this great job so I can stay in this great job for the rest of my life. So then now what if we don't get the grants that we're applying for? But then not only did we get one of the grants we applied for, we got both of the grants we applied for. So kind of careful what you wish for. But now my fear beast is, holy cow, how are we going to execute these grants that we've gotten? And so the reality is the list and the fear beast thoughts just keep going on and on and on, because ultimately at the end of the day, we're humans and we're fueled by these fear beasts. So here's the workshop part of this talk today, where you get to pull out that piece of paper that hopefully you've gathered. So what are some of your fear beasts? You know, think of your life and where you've, come from, some of the journeys that you've had. Think about some of your fear beasts in your personal life, or some of the fear beasts in your professional life, and think about some of your vulnerabilities or some of the thoughts that may be swirling around in your mind. Take a moment, if you will, just to jot some of those things down, whether it's on a piece of paper or in the notes app on your phone, or take a moment now just to pause and reflect. Now that I've bared my soul to you, think about some of the things that swirl around in your mind, some of your fear beasts. I'm going to give you a minute or so to do that. Great. And as we keep going throughout today's presentation, and as you make your way and navigate your way through your life, you can just have a little bit of more awareness around the concept of the fear beast, of being those thoughts and those vulnerabilities that pop into your mind as you're navigating different situations in your life and in your career. But let's start talking about the 3 ways that we can face our fear beast. So again, in the opener, in the title of this presentation, I say love and therapy and lucky breaks. And those might not be kosher words. So Dr. Telfair, when I was prepping this Grand Rounds presentation with him, he's like, all right, Miss Johns, that sounds okay, but you need to give them something tangible that they can take away with them. So let's talk about love first. What do we mean by love? Well, in a professional setting, what that really means our relationships. And so when that child was standing in front of that fear beast, it says the child knows that as long as they have love, they can face down any nightmare. So when we're thinking in a professional setting of what we mean by love, we're really looking at our relationships. So when we're looking at our relationships, that can be in a student setting, that can be with our professors or with our peers, the students in our class. And when we're looking in a professional environment, that can be with our coworkers or our boss. When we're public health practitioners, that can be with the community members that we serve or the community members that we serve with. That can be anyone that is surrounding us. Those can be the relationships that we have all around us. But the question can really become, how do we build those relationships? Well, when I was at Burning Man taught me a lot about love and about building those relationships. And my ongoing work at the IHLA, or the Institute for Health Logistics and Analytics, really reinforces that for me. What I've learned is that you can't build relationships from the sidelines. You build relationships through shared experiences. So shared experiences come best when you're being your authentic self. So when you're showing up exactly who you are with your strengths and your vulnerabilities. You build relationships best when you enter into those relationships from a heart-centered place, and when that heart-centered place has kindness at the center. I've been in professional environments where kindness was not at the center, and it makes it very difficult to have productivity or accuracy. It increases absenteeism, it makes turnover worse, and it actually negatively impacts every other metric. And what I've learned is that it's very simple to be kind, and kindness is free, right? And so when we're thinking about building relationships, having kindness at the center and authenticity at the center really is the foundation for building strong relationships. Relationships are built when you pitch in and roll up your sleeves, because relationships are a two-sided affair. It's when both parties participate. But before you roll up your sleeves, it's really important that you set boundaries, not only for yourself, but for the relationship. Boundaries are the place where you actually can show your love. It protects both you and the other person from any sort of resentfulness. If you don't have boundaries, ultimately you end up being resentful, not only about how much you might give or overgive, or where somebody is not giving to you in the place that you need it. Boundaries keep you from over-promising and possibly either under-delivering or the other person under-delivering to you. And most importantly, it's important to have a very strong relationship with yourself. So making sure that you keep white space in your life, not only for self-care, but for your own joy. So the first place for facing our fear beast is with love and with our relationships. The second place that we need to put our attention for facing our fear beast is with therapy. So I find this one interesting, and it's anybody that knows me will be, I'm always professing my love and admiration for therapy and my therapist. My first question to everybody is, do you have a therapist? If not, you should go get one right now. I don't know how anybody navigates through life without one. Part of that is because as a coach myself, I firmly believe that not only, should everyone have a coach, everyone should be coached, but at the same time, I can't imagine navigating through my life without one. But what is therapy? It's really about having a support system, and it's about having an unbiased or third-party support system. And it's not about leveraging those people listed on the previous slide. So it's not about leveraging the people that you're in relationship with, because those are your people that are carved out for the love/relationship people in your life. We want to keep those people clearly in the love relationship category. We want a separate, unbiased third-party category for the therapy section. And that truly is because everyone that is not trained as a third-party unbiased person will bring their own fear beasts into the relationship. They're going to unconsciously project their fears and agenda onto you, and they'll end up jamming your signal. And so it's really important to have that unbiased third-party person in order to be able to help those of us that might not naturally be able to just receive the love and receive the relationships in our lives, to have that person there. That being said, checking my privilege, I wholeheartedly understand that not everybody has access to a therapist or to a coach. And so, first and foremost, check your health insurance policy to see if it is something that's available to you if you have access to health insurance. If you don't, number one place to start is with your own ability to journal, to be able to have that place where you can unbridled start writing down your thoughts in a place where you can just unleash them and allow them to spill out onto the pages. You'll learn a lot about yourself just by engaging in that practice. But then the next place that you can go is to online resources that come from evidence-based practices. Check the literature source first to make sure that it's coming from a reliable source. But all of this really stems from the fact that, we have all of these professional athletes who have a coach. You as a public health professional deserve also to have that caliber of support. So just as a professional athlete would not step onto the court or step, onto the course or whatever it might be without a coach, neither should you as a professional public health person step into your world without that coach, without that support. So prioritizing that and engaging in that is very important. And then also making sure that you build it before you need it. Obviously, if you need it, now is the time to seek those resources, but it's really important to engage with it before you might actually need it, so that you've got some of those muscles built up before you actually might need to call upon it. So step 2 in facing our fear beasts. So first we've got love, next we've got therapy, and our third step is lucky breaks. Now, to some on the outside, lucky breaks seem like just that, luck, but actually, according to the science, it's resilience. And so when we're looking at where resilience comes from, it actually comes from the construct of self-efficacy. And so again, the science says the opposite of self-efficacy is learned helplessness. And so when we're trying to help people understand how to bolster or build their resilience, it's by pointing back to those moments in time where they were able to help themselves, where they were able to engage in an experience where they were able to actually be successful in the past, and slowly but surely being able to build from those previous moments of success from the past. And so building on that self-efficacy builds up that resilience, and then builds up their ability to be able to draw from that moving forward. So what might seem like a lucky break to some actually is building on their track record, their proven track record of success, in order to be able to unconsciously build that muscle so that they can continue to have that success moving forward. And so what that looks like when you're building your resilience, when you're building those lucky breaks to be less like luck and more like a support system for yourself, is that you really need to know and understand the why. So when we know what our why is more than our what, then we can start focusing on the feeling. And when we focus on the feeling, then we're open to more opportunities. And when we're open to more opportunities, we tend to hold on more loosely to things versus being too rigid with things. and then we're holding on loosely, we can then leverage our support networks. And so our support network can be our relationships, it can be our support system. And I like to refer to that as the London bark, where if you remember the 101 Dalmatians, when they had to call out to the London bark to get the information out into the system, that's leveraging your network, where if you need an opportunity, now that you've got the support system and you've got the relationships, if you know your why and you know the feeling that you're seeking, you can ask your support network to reach out into their network to be able to find you those opportunities. And when that seemingly lucky break comes across your desk, it might feel like you got a lucky break, but it's actually building from your self-efficacy and building from your support system and building from your relationships in order to bring you that success. And you're actually the one that is facing that fear beast. You're actually the one that's building on that success when it actually just simply feels like a lucky break. And so making that transition from it feeling like a lucky break to it actually being your self-efficacy that's built from your resilience. All right, so let's take a look back at the specific moments in my career and how not only the fear beast was awakened, but how the relationships, the support system, and resilience got me through. Okay. So when I began the DRPH program at the Jiann-Ping College of Public Health, my fear beast was, I'm too old. I can't do this. I can't afford to do this. I don't have time to do this. It's too selfish to do this. I should be focusing on my children in college or my children in high school. But I had love. I had relationships. I had love from Dr. Tarasenko, who I was working on projects with. I had love from Dr. Chopak Foss, who encouraged me to apply. I had love from Dr. Lawrence, who gave me a graduate assistantship. I had love from Dr. Shaw, who helped me with the application process. I had love from previous colleagues and from my husband. I also had a support system. I had a therapist and a coach who helped me tackle my imposter syndrome. And I had a few lucky breaks with the fact that I had the resilience that I'd been building. Georgia Southern was in my hometown. I had already been working with the program. I had already built a reputation in the community. I had gotten my master's at Georgia Southern. So even though I didn't really realize it, I already had a little bit of self-efficacy that I was building up. So I want you to pause for a moment and think about a time where you launched into a new project, a new program, maybe you entered into a new job or something like that. Think about the fear beast that was running through your mind. What was the actual fear beast or fear beasts that you were thinking? And then I want you to think about the love, the therapy, and the lucky breaks that you had that got you through, and take a moment to jot those down. I think it's really important that we pause and collect those nuggets of information in your own life. So at a time in your life where you launched, what was your fear beast? And then what was the love, the therapy, and the lucky breaks that helped you through that moment? Then when I was in the middle of my DRPH program at the College of Public Health, my fear beast was, man, I am just not as experienced as my peers. I didn't come from a master's in public health program. I also had things like, I am not a researcher, I'm a practitioner. I had thoughts like, I will never know how to write a dissertation. And then just general thoughts of, I'm just never not going to be overwhelmed by this whole process. But again, I had love in relationships, especially with my peers. I see, Lola and Rashonda are on this call. They were there loving and supporting me through this process. I had relationships with my preceptorship coworkers at DPH. I've had different supervisors throughout the journey, relationships with different professors, new friends that I made outside of the program, legacy friends that I had through the journey, again, my husband. During this time, I also got a new support system with a new therapist. And as far as like lucky breaks were concerned, in a weird way, COVID happened during all of this. And it was a time in my life where my resilience showed up the best was during the pandemic. I was able to pivot in new and unusual ways. Not only was I able to do my preceptorship out of sequence, it also allowed that to become a remote part-time job, but then all of our classes went remote, which was much better for my mental health. And then I started to slowly shift into more self-efficacy around, I think I can actually do this class thing. I still wasn't convinced that I could do the dissertation thing, but I at least started to believe that I could handle the class part of it. And so I was slowly building my self-efficacy muscles as I was working my way through the class process, as I was also building my love and my support system. So again, pausing now, I want you to think about a time where you were in the middle of a project. Maybe it was, again, your own degree, or in the middle of a project, or in the middle of a job. You know, think about the fear beast that you had in the middle of a project. And then think about the love, therapy, and lucky breaks you had in the middle of those. Think about the relationships. Think about the support system, and think about the resilience or the self-efficacy that you started to build as you were in the middle of a project. Take a moment to jot those down. And then as I got to the end of my DRPH program, my fear beast was, I will never find a job. I'll never find a job in this community. I'll never find a job in my price point, doing what I love with people that I would like. I believe that no one would ever hire me, that I'm simultaneously overqualified or underqualified, or that I'm too much for people to handle. And then in terms of like love and relationships, ironically, I found the love in a previous professor that became my boss. My husband was still wildly supportive of all of my craziness at this point in time. I had new community support from people like members of the Squashing the Spread community and peers. Not only I was in multiple cohorts of classes, and I was teaching classes at that time. And so new people were cropping up in different ways, and I was pruning old people out of my life, and it was really starting to feel like I was curating this group of people surrounding me. It was lovely. My therapist stayed the same through all of that, and resilience wise, I really felt like the lucky break was that in one of my classes, in my epi class, and it was one health class, I wrote a paper on goat yoga, and it was the most authentic paper I have ever written, and that class was for Dr. Schwind, and she remembered that class. And so then when I'm in my interview for my job, it was a moment of embarrassment, but it was also a moment of connection, and being authentic like that, being able to bring that into that interview moment was also one of those reminders of staying true to yourself, being authentic, but then also seeking those moments of joy and drawing from those past experiences in order to create those micro moments of lucky breaks for moving forward. And to this day, it's still one of those fun moments that we have within the IHLA where we joke about, you know, goats being our mascot for our whole institute. So, you know, it's bringing your authentic self with you wherever you go. And so again, I want you to think about a time where you got to the end of a project and you were bringing your fear beast toward the end of a project, and maybe you didn't know what was coming next. So think about ending a degree program, or as you were transitioning out of a job, or maybe a project at work or at home was coming to an end. What were your fear beasts then? And think about the relationships that got you through. What support systems did you have in place? How did your resilience or self-efficacy get you through those times? And go ahead and jot those down. And finally, the cycle repeats itself. When I joined the IHLA, at first the fear was, oh man, we're not going to get funded. And then the fear became, oh man, we did get funded. And now the fear is, what if I can't meet the obligations of this funding? And it still remains, what if I'm not good enough? Or what if people don't come to the training? But honestly, now I am surrounded by love and relationships that fill my cup. My coworkers are top notch. My boss is phenomenal. We have a community of support. We've got, coworkers like Shayla who are on this call. We've got a community of support. My husband is supportive. I've got a close group of friends. I've got a Burning Man community. From a support system perspective, I'm still with the same therapist. And as far as lucky breaks are concerned, I don't really know yet. But what we know and what I know is that I'm starting to believe in resilience. I'm starting to know, based on what I've seen of my team, that we are resilient. And I know that all of us have done this before. We may not have done this at the IHLA because the IHLA is only a year old, but I know that we've all done this at other jobs or in other capacities in our lives. So I know that we'll be able to do this again. And I know that self-efficacy is at the heart of resilience. And so I know that not only I, but that we as a team at the Institute will be able to face our fear beasts. And so I know that we will be able to continue to be successful. And so ironically enough, our team at the IHLA feels like the full circle embodiment of my career. Our office that's currently being built is back in Big, which is the entrepreneurial space that I was in starting back in 2014. We're working on projects that are in the occupational health area of my life, which is what my master's was in. We're engaging in projects with DPH, which is where I did my preceptorship and where I did my part-time job. Daily, I'm leveraging knowledge and skills that I learned as a DRPH student. We're currently writing and publishing research. We're implementing leadership and development tools from my time in corporate. We're being led and leading based on the core values that I teach and that I coach around. I'm actually even at times engaging in projects with West Africa, and I've even gotten to speak French a few times on the job, which is awesome. And we're being led by some of the 10 principles of Burning Man. And so now, Dr. Schwinn, do you think we could maybe go on some hot air balloon rides for our next retreat? That would be kind of cool, don't you think? And so if anybody would like to learn anything more about the amazing work that we're doing at the IHLA, you can visit our website by going to research.georgiasouthern.edu/health-logistics. You can take a photo of our QR code. As you can tell, I enjoy building relationships with people, so you can feel free to email me anytime at jjohns@georgiasouthern.edu. And more than anything, as is stated on the Facing the Fear Beast website, the intent of their project can be found in much of the work that we do in public health. And this is what they state on their website. It says, this work comes from the daily practice of facing those voices, those threats, those fears. It comes from the practice of facing the beasts of fear, not with returned hatred, not by becoming a beast ourselves, but through connection to the core of expansive love that lives inside all of us. We choose to find our power and strength through the inner child that survives beneath the layers of trauma, apathy, and doubt. This work also comes from the knowledge that none of us are alone, that we are strongest and greatest when we stand together. The true meaning of this work is rooted in solidarity, in community, in loving relationship. Thank you. The end.
Thank you. Wow, that was, I didn't even have to send you a 5-minute warning. Awesome. I shouldn't be surprised. We now have about 10 minutes for anybody who would like to ask additional questions. This is your opportunity to pick Jill's brain a little bit more. Please just feel free. You can either raise your hand, your virtual hand if your camera is available, or your or on the reactions at the bottom of your screen.
I would love it if anybody wanted to, I mean, I know I said it was workshop style and I just verbal talked for 45 minutes straight, but if anybody wanted to share any fear beasts or any of your own, things, I would love to hear it, but I know it can be strange to speak up to a group of strangers, but I'd love to hear it if anybody wanted to share, or type it in the chat, even if you're uncomfortable unmuting.
Hey, Jill, thank you so much for that awesome presentation. I really am just honored to be here to hear it. I do have a question, and I think this is something that I'm personally kind of trying to do better myself. Is, it's really easy, I think, to look back on the different things that a person accomplishes, or like you accomplish, and see, oh, everything is so clear now, right? But me personally, like especially during the pandemic, it was very hard to see all of these puzzle pieces coming together, and view the time in the pandemic as like a source of growth. Do you have any advice or anything you can share about getting better at recognizing these fear beasts when they're happening, rather than kind of looking back, a couple of years later and saying, oh yeah, I should have saw that and I should have seen, reacted this way. But thank you again for your talk.
Oh, that's a loaded question. I guess I can't really answer that for anyone else, but for me, it's so my personal practice is weekly therapy and journaling, and my own like meditative or reflective work, and so I try to like catch myself in the moment, but I need immediate work to like catch myself immediately, and I also need like macro work of like kind of like stepping back from things and looking at things from a big picture. So I have like tools that help me in the moment, but then I also have to have like big picture tools that help me like see the forest at the same time, because sometimes I have to wait for enough time to pass to see the forest, but I also need like coping skills in the moment. So it kind of depends. Sometimes I need the coping in the moment, and sometimes I need to wait to see the forest. I don't know if that helps, but.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Other questions? We still have about 7 minutes. Rashawn just in the chat says, great job, Jill. I enjoyed hearing about all the things you've done and overcome. I have some of the same fear beasts that you mentioned regarding being in and trying to complete the DRPH program. I've come to realize that there are more people that are willing to support, guide, and encourage us than we think.
Yes, there are. We need to leverage, and that was the reason why I asked Dr. Telver's permission to kind of present it this way, because I said that I didn't want to stand up here and present the like accomplishment side, because I feel like everybody can be accomplished. What I wanted to do was kind of present the underbelly of the accomplishments, because I think that that's the human connection side, where it's like, yeah, there's 1,000 wildly accomplished, millions of everybody's wildly accomplished in public health, but it's the piece around like that vulnerability and the courage that it takes and the struggles that we go through and the human connection side, and like having compassion for each other and kind of connecting with each other at the human level. And hopefully, and Dr. Schwind and I have this where it's like, usually if I'm struggling one day, she's solid that day, and then we'll toggle, and it's like, we kind of hope that we're both not struggling on the same day, because if we're both struggling on the same day, then that can be a rough day, but it's like, the more we can let each other know that we are struggling and need to be there to support each other, I think the stronger we make the whole field of public health, because the work of public health is weighty, and there's a lot of work to be done, and we've all just come through a really heavy collective trauma with COVID, and there's a lot of, the work of public health is social justice work, and the work of public health is, it's challenging work, and we need to take care of each other, and I think it's important that we acknowledge that.
I agree. As you can see, Jill was doing public health before she was even in her degree program. It's kind of an interesting coming to full circle.
Yeah, I said I didn't know public health was a thing, and I found my people, but I didn't find my people until I was much later in life. But now I found my people, so I'm happy.
And we're happy too.
Yay. You're not gonna get rid of me now, though.
Any other questions? And thank you to your mom for being here.
Yay, Mom. Maybe Dad too.
Just go ahead. I wanted to just say thank you for this presentation, Jill. And I just kind of felt a kind of reassurance with some things you mentioned. I found myself also like struggling, especially right now, working with dissertation and all. So, some things you said, obviously, one of the things I can take home today is, of course, surrounding myself with a great support network, which of course I have a lot in Georgia Southern among the faculties already. But, I just learned from what you said today that it's okay to get as much support as you need for this process. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, Lola. I'm on Team Lola. You're on my team too, whether you want to be or not.
Any other questions or comments? Well, seeing none, we'll give you back 3 minutes to your day, which for some people might be very helpful. I'd like to thank everyone who attended today's grand rounds. Thank you so much to our featured speaker, Jill Johns. I do look forward to your dissertation defense someday, and continue to enjoy the journey. I think one of the things serving as the chair of many dissertations, including a couple that are on the one in particular who's on the call right now, is sometimes students are focusing so much on the end that by the time that enjoying the process and the learning along the way gets buried. So continue. I know you're going to continue to absorb all of the great knowledge that you're gaining from managing 2 grant projects, and I have no doubt that we will continue to see great things from you. So great to see you. And thank you everyone for being on the call today.
Thank you, everyone.